Yo! Yayo, yayo, dreaming. Don't give it up, Lupe. Dreaming. Don't give it up, Solo. Dreaming. Don't give it up, Nave. Dreaming. Don't give it up, give it up, give it up, give it up, give it up.
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today, I'm finally getting around to actually making the most annoying things in each color video, or maybe another way to look at it is the best things about each color, or the things that you hate most about each color. I've got all 6 of them here, and of course, we are going to start off with everyone's favorite color to hate, and that is red. For good reason, mind you. First and foremost, before we get into the video, I just want to say thank you so much to every single person that helped me get to 500 subs. I really do appreciate that. We are now on track to getting 1,000 subs. Let's see how far we can get by the end of the year. We still got November, December left, so help a guy out. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and put something down in the comments what you thought about this video. Let me know your favorite color and your least favorite color in the game. And with all that being said, thank you guys so much once again. Now, let's get into the video here. So, red. It's been the best color in the game since the beginning. You can make an argument that green and red were the 2 best colors in set 1. In set 2, that was definitely red. Set 3, red again. And 4 so far is still red, with primarily these 3 leaders being the big threats, that being Law, Whitebeard, and Zoro. Zoro has been kind of falling off a little bit, but the deck is still incredibly powerful, and it's probably, of the 3, it's probably the most versatile deck, because it can constantly reshape itself, it can redesign itself to be a red weenie deck, to being a red mid-range deck. It's fantastic. The deck is amazing, and all 3 of these decks are ridiculous. Law is still topping events constantly because it's just that good, and it hasn't got support in 2 sets. That's insane to me. Whitebeard is just way too good of a leader. It gets way too big of hand, has a built-in extra attack and extra defense. Deck's just nutty. But these are some of the things that we can go into when it comes to each color. First and foremost, I'll say about red is the leaders are too good. Obviously, I just explained why all of them are ridiculously good. And red still tops. Out of the top 16, you're going to see red probably taking anywhere from like 60 to 80% of the top 16 meta. Red is just the easiest deck to play, and it is the... it's best for new players to learn how to play the game by playing red, but it's just... I think red's a little overtuned, and it does need to be addressed in the future, but let's talk about some things specifically of why red is so annoying. And the first one I can think about is Rush. Red is the color that seems to have the most amount of rushers in this game, which is such a... In my opinion, Rush is something that should never have been introduced into this particular format, or in this particular game. It makes sense with Dragon Ball because, every card in the game has Rush, but when you're playing One Piece, not every card has Rush. So having the color that primarily has this ability is so good. You have the 3-drop 5k Rush Zoro. You have Ace, who gets Rush if you're playing a Whitebeard pirate leader, which that would be Newgate or Ace. It's a 7-cost 7k that knocks 2 cards down by 3k and gets Rush on top of that. So you knock something down by 3k, then you can swing 7k into it. It's great for clearing boards or going for game, but the best card for Rush, in my opinion, in this game is the Monkey D. Luffy, the card from the starter deck. Card is nuts. It's a 5-cost 6k body, and then it automatically has Rush. But you throw 2 Dawn on him, you can't block him. So if you have 0 life and you have 1 or 2 blockers on board, you feel like you can survive a turn. Throws down Luffy, throws 2 Dawn on him. Now he is an 8k body that cannot be blocked. Hell, you could pay 5 for him and then throw 5 Dawn on him. So now he's an 11k Rush that cannot be blocked. You have to combo out, which means you are at the very least getting rid of 3 cards out of hand. 4 cards out of hand, at the very least, possibly even more. This card helps red clench victories, and it is such a ridiculously busted card. It's searchable. It has great playability, great stat lines. Card's just nuts. In my opinion, red, no color should have rush. Or if we want to make rush more of a thing, more colors should have options for rush. I think blue only has one option for rush, and it's a 5k. It's a 4-drop 5k. It's Usopp. No one's gonna play it. Purple has, I think, 2 rushers, Kaido and Queen. God, I can't think of any other colors that have... Well, no, yellow has it in Katakuri, in one of the Katakuris. But yeah, rush, I think, is ridiculously overpowered. It's just nutty. Next, we have its easy KO ability. Red has so many cards that can just easily KO other things. These 3 in particular are really good in my opinion. First, you have Fire Fist. It is a 3-drop, trash 1 event from hand, KO a 5-cost card, and then a 4-cost card. Sorry, 4k power and 5k power. That is insane to me. A 3-cost card can get rid of 2 bodies. Yeah, sure, you have to drop an event, but guess what? The only other card that comes to mind that can KO things is yellow Thunderbolt. And to KO a 5-cost, you have to trash a life. It just... The difference there is so ridiculous. It's such a good card. It helps clear boards, helps get rid of attackers, blockers for red to start swinging in. You have Red Hawk, which is a great counter card, giving your leader 4k power, and then KOing a character with 4k power or less. You look at other cards that, cost 2 that give a 4k boost, like Dragon Twister, that bottom deck's a 1 cost. Or, oh my god, there's another one. Love Metal lets you draw a card if you have 3 or less cards in hand. But this lets you save yourself plus KO another card on board, which possibly could be a blocker. It's just, I think the card's busted. Plus, its trigger ability is really good too. And of course, the 5-cost 6k Marco, everyone hates Marco. Let's be real here. The constantly regenerating thing is really annoying with this deck. The only way you can get rid of it is you bottom deck it. But anyway, you play this card, you get a 6k body, and you KO a 3k power or less card, which means a blocker, anything low to the ground like that. And that is just an on-play ability. So if it comes back to board, you just get to KO something again. It's so easy for red to KO things. Red has, and then, oh yeah, before we even get to that, let's get to the final reason why red is annoying, overpowered, yada yada. And of course, that is the searchers. Red has the most amount of searchers in this game, and that is ridiculous. Sorry, I'm saying ridiculous a lot. I get it. You have 1-cost Nami, which searches the top 5 for a Straw Hat. You have Buggy, which searches the top 5 for an event card. You have Izo, which searches the top 5 for a Whitebeard Pirates card, other than Izo. And of course, other than Nami, for Nami search. And then Curly Dedan, which lets you search the top of your deck for a 1-cost red card, which typically is a searcher. So you have searchers for your searchers. It's... Why? Red's deck consistency is it's so easy for red to see everything they need because they have plenty of searchers to find them. No other color has this many searchers. The closest one, I think, is green, that maybe has 2. Maybe blue has 2. Anyway, if red didn't have as many searches as they do, their decks would not be nearly as consistent. And of course, in this game, consistency is everything. So it makes sense. But overall, that's the final reason why I think red is a bit overpowered. And, kind of wrapping it all up, red has great searchers. Red has easy KO abilities. Red has rush. And then has the best leaders in the game. All those things in consideration, that is why red is so annoying. Next, we have my personal favorite color in this game, and that is blue. Blue's whole thing is about board manipulation in the extent of bouncing cards back to hand, bouncing cards bottom of deck. That's pretty much Blue's whole spiel, Building their board while getting rid of your opponent's board. But not KOing things, because that would be crazy. My personal favorite thing about Blue is how it bottoms It takes cards to the bottom of the opponent's deck. Oops, sorry, hit the mic there. These 3 cards are the main staples for a lot of blue decks, in my opinion, which are 3,000 Worlds, Gum Gum Red Rock, and the 9-cost Dracule Mihawk. All 3 of these cards, bottom deck cards, so that you almost will never see them again. The only times you'll ever see them is if your opponent somehow is able to cycle through their entire deck. Let's see here. 3,000 Worlds, bottom decks a 5-cost or less for 4. Red Rock, bottom decks any card for 6. And then Mihawk bottom decks a 7-cost or less. Now, before we got Red Rock and 3,000 Worlds, Mihawk was the only card that bottom decked something, and it just, well, besides Jinbei, we don't talk about that Jinbei, it's a bad card. But most decks played bigger boss monsters in 7 drops. So Mihawk wasn't that great at stopping actual big bosses. In fact, at the time of its release, it was probably the worst big boss monster of the group. But as of now, with all these different options of bouncing things to the bottom of the deck, whether it's 5 cost or less, a 7 drop, or anything, blue can really do a great job of manipulating the board. And a lot of people say they don't like playing against blue because of these things, which I totally understand. It would be really annoying to spend a whole lot of Dawn on a card, and then it gets bottom decked, and then you're never going to see it again. 100% agree. And there's another thing that's a bit worse that blue does. Let me show you. And that thing is bouncing cards to hand. Personally, my opinion, bouncing cards to hand is bad. Yeah, your opponent has to waste Dawn to replay them, but a lot of cards have on-play abilities, which you don't want them to redo over and over and over again. But sometimes bouncing cards to hand, like a blocker, or a big card that they're not going to have the ability to play again next turn as easily as they did the previous turn, can be really good. And these cards in particular, I think, are great aspects of that. You have the 7-cost 6k Soge King Secret Rare, which bounces a 6-cost back to hand, then lets you draw 2 and discard 2. You have the 10-drop Kaido that came out in set 4, bounces a 8-cost and a 3-cost back to the owner's hand, which those cards can be your cards as well. So if you want to get cards back to your hand that you want to use later, you certainly can. And then, of course, the starter deck, 7-cost Doflamingo, which bounces a 7-cost or less to the owner's hand. Honestly, like I said, nowadays, bouncing things to the bottom of the deck is the way to go for blue. Bouncing things to hand doesn't work out all that well. Sometimes it can in certain situations, but it's just not as good. These are really the only things I've seen that people complain about blue. It's the biggest things. Bouncing cards to hand, bouncing cards to the bottom of deck. Besides that, blue, I think, is overall more of a fair color, especially against red. Nothing really stands out about blue besides bouncing things, so that's all I got for blue. Still annoying as hell, though. I totally understand. As a blue player, I get it. Next, we have black. Black is a color that had a lot of hype when it first came out in set 2, and unfortunately hasn't really done a whole lot since then. These personally are the 3 best leaders for black that I can tell across, the meta, and that is Rob Lucci, Smoker, and Rebecca, which is a half blue leader. But black's whole thing is cost manipulation. And with cost manipulation, you have cost removal. These cards allow black to basically let's take a 9 cost, drop it down to a 5 cost, drop it down to a 3 cost, and then remove it with a lot of easy tech. These 3 cards in particular are really, really good when it comes to that. You have the Secret Rare, Kuzan, which probably does it the best. It's a 10 cost 10k body, but during your turn, you give all of your opponent's cards minus 5 to their cost. So 10 costs are now down to 5. 5 costs are now down to 0, which triggers off a bunch of other things. And then on play, it also KOs a card with a cost of 0, so it KOs a 5 cost on play. Then you have the 4-drop Kuzan, which lets you draw 1, and then every time it attacks, you get to knock something down by 4. So it helps clear bodies. And of course, we have the new Secret Rare, not Secret Rare, you have the new Super Rare Isho, that on your turn, give it a Dawn, gives all of your opponent's cards minus 3 to their cost, and then if your opponent has 6 or more cards in their hand, you get to trash 2 of them when it's played. These are really neat cards. Black has a problem with keeping a large hand size, which the Kuzan does help by drawing 1 on play. It helps replace itself. But overall, And that's a really big thing about black, is that it doesn't have a big hand size, which is unfortunate. But the cost removal should be a lot easier to do, but unfortunately black just hasn't gotten enough support where I feel like that's a problem. Not until set 5 at least. Black also has some of the best blockers in the game, and that is the 4-drop Borsellino and the 3-drop Fukuro. And Borsellino, 1, has the ability of, on your opponent's turn, this card gets 1k power and cannot be KO'd by effects. And that is an amazing ability, because you also then you have Fukuro, who has that same ability just constantly. Blockers that cannot be KO'd by effects, they have to be KO'd through battle, means they're gonna take up swings. You can't KO them with red cards, you can't KO them with yellow, you have to remove them from the board with other means, which blue does very well with bouncing cards to hand or bottom of the deck, or yellow that has the ability to put them at the bottom or top of life. But for the most part, these cards basically say, screw you, red, you have to hit us. And they are really, really good. But yeah, I can't say anything else, just they have the best blockers in the game, and we're gonna hop on over to another color. All right, purple. Purple's a weird one. Right now, purple doesn't have too much presence in the meta. It's going to get a lot bigger in set 5, but I'd say these 3 leaders here are more common than anything else. I know Don Quixote do Flamingo is part green, which we'll get to in a bit, but we have King, Magellan, and King is like a joke leader, but surprisingly has been doing fairly well in this format. Not topping like amazingly well, but still surprisingly good. Magellan's a really cool leader. It has great matchups into Whitebeard, which is one of the best decks in the format. But Purple's whole thing is Dawn manipulation. And they do that in a lot of different ways, really. A lot of it does involve them purposely taking Dawn away from themselves to get special effects. Like for Queen, you get rid of a Dawn and you draw 2, trash 1. That's an amazing ability. Plus you get a 6k blocker. You have Uda from the starter deck, which on block, trash a Dawn, you get to rest an opponent's character with a cost of 5 or less. That's such a great card and ability to stop wide board attacks. Especially against lower bodies that you typically see in red decks. And then, of course, you have Magellan, his 5-drop 6k body that allows him on play, remove a Dawn to make your opponent get rid of one of their Dawn, so it stops their curve and slows down their plays a little bit. And then, of course, the ability to, his ability during my opponent's turn, if he were to be KO'd, your opponent returns 2 of their Dawn to their deck. So if this card is KO'd for whatever reason, their opponent's plays are slowed down even more. Unless they play blue, then blue's just going to bottom deck it, and it doesn't go off that way. But it's really, really cool. And most people would think, oh, but purple taking away all their Dawn slows down your own plays, right? No, because purple also is the only color, really, that has Dawn ramp. These 3 in particular do a great job of that. First of all, you have Miss All Sunday from set 4. When this card is played, add 1 Dawn from your Dawn deck and rest it. If they have 6 or more Dawn, you can draw a card. Plus, it's a trigger. So you can play it, -2 Dawn to use a trigger ability, and then you just ramp another Dawn back. Great card. Thunder Bagua, that if on its trigger effect, if you just add a Dawn to your Dawn from your Dawn deck to the board is active, and its ability also give your leader 4k power as a counter effect. Then if you have 2 or less life, add 1 Dawn to your board. Great card, especially with how often you are removing your own Dawn. You need ways to get it back up. And of course, the best card in the entire game for ramping is Onigashima Island. It's only usable if your leader is an Animal Kingdom Pirates, which I think at the moment there's only 3 purple leaders that have that characteristic. So basically you play this card, you tap it every turn, you just add 1 Dawn. So you're essentially adding 3 Dawn per turn after this card is played. It's awesome. You can use your -Dawn abilities and not have to worry about being behind because you always have this card. It's so good. And the final characteristic of purple and why it's so annoying is, once again, easy ways to KO. And these 3 cards here are great representations of that. You have the 6-drop 7k power King on play. You -1 Dawn, KO one of your opponent's cards with a cost of 4 or less. The 9-drop 10k Kaido, that on play -5 Dawn, KO a 6 cost or less, and he gets Rush. This card's great for going in for that final swing. And then finally, 10-drop 12k Kaido from set 1, on play -6 Dawn, KOs everything on board except itself. So you feel like your opponent's gotten such a wide board you can't stop it. Throw this sucker down, blows up everything, and now your opponent has a 12k body staring at them. It's such a cool card, only usable in Animal Kingdom decks, and only when you have built up your Onigashima Island and other ways to help ramp Dawn. But yeah, great ways of KOing cards. There's other purple cards, of course, that do that as well. But I think these 3 in particular do that the best. And that is why, personally, these 3... well, that's why purple is so annoying to play against. Next, we have yellow, the new color introduced in set 3. And yellow has definitely made its impact on the meta, in my opinion, more so than black did in set 2. Yellow has 3 pretty good leaders right now, and that is Charlotte Linlin, Charlotte Katakuri, and Yamato. Of these 3, I think Charlotte Katakuri is the best or easy to use among them. Basically, Yellow's whole thing is life manipulation. You essentially win the game by taking your own life. You're essentially winning by losing. And so a lot of people really don't like Yellow as a color because their playstyle is kind of counterintuitive, because you have to take your opponent's life in order to win, but every time you hit them for life, you are literally just, you're gambling. You're gambling on what Yellow's gonna possibly get out of trigger, because Yellow has the best triggers of the game, and there are so damn many of them. These are just 6, but I think these 6 are just ridiculous. I think these 6 are probably the best triggers in the game, or specifically for yellow. You have 4 cost 5k Sanji blocker. You get out of life, drop a card from hand, play it. You have a blocker that can also swing lethal if you want to. You have 3 cost 5k Charlotte Perospero. Once again, if he's in life, you activate a trigger effect by discarding a card from hand. You play him. Now you have a 5k body on board. And if it's ever KO'd, you can just search the top 3 cards of your deck for another Big Mom Pirate card. It helps you find your big, 10-drop Big Mom. It helps you find other Big Mom Pirates type cards. It's great. There's no reason not to play it. And if it dies, it dies. Whatever. You have Thunderbolt, which on trigger just KOs a 5 cost or less. KOs a blocker, KOs another attacker. It's just amazing. You have Shirahoshi on trigger. You play this card for free. On play, you draw 3 cards and trash 2 from hand, so you're able to cycle through your hand, get rid of cards that are dead, and obviously get new cards. You have Charlotte Brûlée, which is a free blocker on trigger, so it stops another attack. But of course, the best trigger in yellow, in my opinion, is Gang Beige. Its trigger effect is you get to stop one of your opponent's cards from attacking, whether it's their leader or one of their characters. Your opponent could be going in, they've done all the math, they need 2 more swings to win, they swing 1, they take your last life, boom, Gang Beige, their big attacker or their leader that hasn't attacked yet can attack. And that can literally win yellow games by just stalling your opponent out. And that's so good. That's so annoying because you can't plan for what yellow has in triggers. You just hope that they don't get a trigger, or you hope that it's a bad one. But yellow's whole thing is manipulating life. And when they manipulate life, they're just adding the opportunity for more triggers to show up in life. So you really, like I said, can't plan for that. These 3 cards in particular are probably my picks for what represents life manipulation. And I just realized I cut off the end there. Sorry. The 8-drop Secret Rare Katakuri, that on play allows an 8 cost or less to be put at the bottom or top of the owner's life, and that can be on your life or your opponent's life. The leader, Charlotte Katakuri, is absolutely insane. Throw a Dawn on him, he now becomes a 7k body because his ability lets him get an additional 1k, and then you get to look at the top of your life or your opponent's life and move it to the top or bottom. If this card just touched your life, like the owner's life, that's fine. Like, that's a good ability. But the fact that it can look at your opponent's life and then see, oh, my opponent, this is a trigger, I want it to the bottom of their deck, or I want it to the top so I can use it early. It's such a way that, like, knowing what your opponent has in life is absolutely busted. And then, of course, the Terror of Yellow, which is the 10-drop Charlotte Katakuri. You play this 12k body. You get to take, you get to add one card from the top of your life to your, one card from the top of your deck to your life, and then you get to take the top card of your opponent's life and trash it. Doesn't go to their hand; it's just gone. It creates a 2-card deficit every time it is played, and when these cards go back to back, you play like 2 in a row or 3 in a row, it just wins you games. Because you're putting another card into your life, which has an opportunity for a trigger to occur, and you're taking away an opponent's life, not even giving to them into their hand to use. It's just going in the trash. You can get rid of your opponent's triggers, especially with your leader ability. If you know what's in their life, it's insane value, and I think Yellow's life manipulation has gone too far too soon. I cannot imagine any card being better than these 3 when it comes to life manipulation. I think that's it. And that is personally why I think Yellow is so annoying to deal with. And Yellow as a whole gatekeeps the format in a way that it punishes slower decks. Blue, black, purple, any deck that isn't like attacking and playing bodies every single turn, this deck punishes. And even then with the aggro decks, it just gives them the opportunity to play more of their triggers. So Yellow, I think, is in a weird spot where it needs to be hit, but it only needs to be hit in the way, like, if other colors were also hit. But that is personally my opinion why Yellow is so annoying. And last but not least, we have Green. Green is kind of in a weird spot this format. It's just Kinemon, and Kinemon was like the best leader, well, one of the best leaders in set 2 format, and then he just kind of fell off. Eustace Kid has been kind of here and there throughout the meta. And then, of course, the new green-purple Doflamingo has been probably the top representation of green in this format. That's why he's in this one, too. But I think green has really cool leaders and really cool abilities. The Eustace Captain Kid leader being able to, once per turn, tap 3 Dawn to restand him. So his leader can essentially get 2 attacks. Basically, you could throw 7 Dawn on him, make him a 12k body, swing with him, restand 3 Dawn, tap 3 Dawn, restand him, another 12k swing. That helps win games. Doflamingo's ability being able to set 2 of your Dawn as active at the end of turn is awesome. And then Kinemon's ability to make all of your Land of Wano cards cost 1 less once per turn, as long as you don't have too many on board, is really, really good. Green's whole shtick is board manipulation, whether that be tapping down opponents' cards, playing cards on their board. It's really neat. These 3 in particular are really cool in that aspect. Number 1 being Sugar. When this card is played, if your leader has a Don Quixote Pirates type characteristic, rest up to one of your opponent's characters. That's once per turn. During your opponent's turn, when your opponent plays a card, you can activate this ability, tap the leader, and then you can tap one of your opponent's cards. And this ability can still trigger even if the card is in rest mode. Then on play, you get to rest up to one of your opponent's cards with a cost of 4 or less. So great value with tapping down your opponent's cards. And that's a big thing that green does, is just tapping down a card, tapping down your opponent's cards. Probably the best one to use in that aspect is the 10 cost 10k Don Quixote Doflamingo. On play, choose up to 3 of your opponent's rested characters and or leader cards, and they do not become active during your opponent's next turn. So basically, you pick 3 cards on your opponent's board and they stay arrested. It's so good. And then you have the Trafalgar Law, 5-drop 6k blocker. On play, you can return 1 character to your hand and then play up to 1 character at the cost of 3 or less from your hand. It manipulates if your board is full, or if you just want to get 1 card on the board back to your hand and play another card. It's such insane value. This is the card for Law, for your Law deck. Green also has a wide amount of free play cards. The best trio, in my opinion, is the Film Luffy, Film Brook, Film Nami. Basically, you pay 7 to play Luffy, which allows you to play a film card or Straw Hat type card with a cost of 4 or less from your hand. You then play Brook, or you could play Zoro. That's perfectly normal. But then Brook has the ability to play a film or a Straw Hat type card with a cost of 3 or less from your hand, which then you play Nami. So for 7 Dawn, you are playing 3 cards, 2 5Ks and a 7K. And then Nami also has the ability on play, and when attacking, to tap one Dawn to search your top 3 for a film card other than Nami and add it to hand. So building a wide board is super easy in Green. There's a bunch of other combinations you can do, but this is probably the most common one you'll see. All right, and then Green itself also has a decent amount of searchers. This is something that... And of course, Green has their own decent searchers, whether this be Jewelry Bonnie and the Nami that we just talked about. This card has... Both of these cards are pretty darn usable in most Green decks nowadays. Jewelry Bonnie, especially on Law, searches your deck for a Supernovas card, which there's a lot of great Supernovas from set 1 and 2. Then you add it to your hand. You do have to pay 1 every time you search with it. And then, of course, Nami, same thing. When attacking, you tap 1, reveal up to, look at the top 3 cards, reveal up to 1 film type card, add it to your hand. So you get enough of these on board, you're just cranking in value. There's also their Momonosuke from, I forgot to throw him in there, but he also searches a Land of Wano when you tap him and pay 1. It's great. Green has some pretty good searchers. All right, next we have the multiple attackers. I'm going to cover that little part up there. I forgot to edit that. But basically, these cards help with clearing board, being able to attack multiple times. You have Basil Hawkins that with a Dawn on him, if he attacks a character card, you get to restand him. So you can attack a character, restand him, go into a leader, or go into another character. You have the Kazuki Odin, which... You can tap a couple Dawn to restand him. He's an 8K body, which is really, really good. We talked about the leader, use his kid's ability, being able to tap 3 Dawn to restand him. And then you have the 5-cost 6K Trafalgar Law from the Green Star deck. You can play him on play. You get to choose a Supernova or Hearts Pirate type character with a cost of 5 or less and switch them back to active mode. So swing with a body, play that, restand, throw more Dawn on him if you want, swing again. Really good. It's hard to keep track of how many swings Green can get when you use a couple of these cards. But really, really cool ability. Also really annoying. And finally, Green has a lot of cards with double attack, which is an ability to hit for 2 life instead of 1. Basically, these are the 3 cards that I would say amplify that the best. You have the promo Eustace Captain Kidd that no one ever uses. I think it's an okay card, but you throw 2 Dawn on him, he gains double attack. You have the Yamada, which is probably the best one in my opinion, being a 5K, 5-cost body with double attack and banish. So those 2 cards it hits, they go to the drop, like your trash. They're not coming into play. And then finally, you have the Don Krieg from set 3. Basically, on play, trash 1 card from your hand, KO 2 of your opponent's characters with a cost of 4 or less, and throw a Dawn on him. This character gains double attack. So he's an 8K double attack after KOing 2 cards with a cost of 4 or less on board that are arrested. Oh, amazing stuff. Green, I think, is a real serious contender still in this format. But it just doesn't have as much... It hasn't gotten a lot of huge support, especially in set 4. But, yeah. Those are why I think each color is annoying. Those are some of the things I hate about each and every color. And sounds like the community as a whole hates about each color. But hey, let me know what you think in the comments down below. What did you think of this video? What is your... Like I said earlier in the video, what's your favorite color to play against or to play with? And thank you so much once again for getting me to 500 subscribers. Next goal is 1,000, and I will see you on the next video. Take care, guys.
Here's how the
story goes, we find out by the treasure in the grand line, there's no doubt. The pirate whose eye is on it, he'll sing, I'll be king of the pirates, I'm gonna be king.
Yayo, 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 ho, ho. His name is Luffy.
That's Monkey D.
Gonna be king of the pirates.